Sitting here with Mr. Milo Ramirez, owner and founder of Salsa Limon, a local establishment here in Fort Worth, a growing in popularity establishment. Thank you for taking the time to sit here and speak with us a little bit about your background and your present and your future as a solid part of the entrepreneurial community here in Fort Worth. So let's go ahead and get started. First question for you that I had is, what brought you and your family to Fort Worth?
That's kind of I guess you can have a short answer to the long answer. Essentially, it was the opportunity to open the first Salsa Limon. I had written a paper, a business plan for Salsa Limon when I was in college, and I updated it after a few years of professional or corporate experience and working in the advertising world. And I pitched it before I left. I actually went to live in Miami, and before I went to Miami, I pitched it to a couple of friends that were in the investment business, and they loved it. And like a year and a half later, after I had gone to Miami, they call me and they go, "Look, there's a person in Fort Worth that wants to." The guy's actually from Houston, that wants to do your Salsa Limon concept. And that was true. He was interested in letting us open the first one, but the condition was that it would have to open in his mall, which is the Gran Plaza, which is where our first location was. So that's how it happened. I mean, which is my funding and the financial opportunity for me to execute my concept brought me to Fort Worth.
Okay. Wow. So this was the first time that you'd ever really come to the city, or did you? I had come to Fort Worth a couple times before, but that was the first time I came with eyes of I might be moving here. I had come a couple other times when I was working as a strategist for an ad firm, and my account was Bimbo USA, which used to be based here in Fort Worth for a while. I guess now they are over in the Oro Wheat thing, but I came to Fort Worth a couple times before like that. Okay. So where are you from originally?
I was born in Mexico City, but my mom is from Oaxaca, where I was raised most of my life. It was Oaxaca and Chiapas. But my dad is from the Valley, from Mission and McAllen area in South Texas. So I spent most of my summers in South Texas and got the whole Southern Texan experience, the tortillas de harina and all that other awesome North Mexican or Tex-Mex food, if you will. And so yeah, that's kind of how I was made. Is my origins are a little bit of a mix,
So how is that mixed origins, both in southern Mexico and in the valley? How does that continue to influence you today?
Well, I mean, I think that one of the most important parts of it is it gives me a very broad perspective. That it's not what being Mexican or what being what being Mexican or what Mexico is and what Texas is. It's very, very broad. I mean, I would say that probably I have a better notion of what being Mexican is because I can see it from a bicultural perspective. Kind of like what you see in people from El Paso. I don't know if you've ever met people from El Paso. They're all very progressive and very bilingual and bicultural. And I think that's what it gives me. When I come to South Texas, or when I came to South Texas, I knew that there was more Mexico than that because I came from it. You know what I'm saying?
Right.
And when I would go to the down south, I knew that there was a better opportunity for us down there because I could see what was happening on this side of the border. So I think that coming from such a rich and important parts of Mexican American, the Mexican American tradition, and I'm going beyond American as a nationality, because many times we say America as if it was America, United States. I'm talking about American as a continent, America.
That's really good. So obviously, food and the culinary arts is an important part of your life today. In what ways did food really play a role in your life early on and shape kind of your outlook?
I mean, I would argue not unlike the rest of the Mexican community. I mean, food is central to our formation. We especially coming from Oaxaca, and being a Oaxacan is it's even a bigger, deeper deal because Oaxacan food is probably the top of Mexican food in Mexico. I mean, I would say, I have a friend from Michoacan that would argue with me on that, and there's the Yucatecs will also argue, but I mean, you can take a few steps back and just travel the country, and you would come back with Oaxacan food being, since it comes from such a pre-Hispanic position, it's a lot of old, ancient recipes that are like, my mom's first language was not Spanish. That's how Oaxacan we are.
A lot of indigenous traditions.
Very much so, which makes our food, gives that food that uniqueness. So the importance of food in our culture and my upbringing was total. I mean, we would wake up in the morning with a wonderful breakfast, and we would talk about what we would have for lunch, and then what we would have for dinner. And you know, our home in Oaxaca, our family recipes are ancient. And we still have many of the same people that would sell cheese to my grandfather. Their grandson was now selling cheese to me, and it just has that. It almost transcends time. The Oaxacan food tradition. When it comes to the Tex-Mex or the South Texan, it's more of a northern Mexican tradition. It's cabrito, it's barbacoas on Sunday, it's tortillas de harina that are almost, you know, transparent and just thin and beautiful. A lot more simple food, a lot more comfort food than what we have in Oaxaca, which is very spectacular. But it did give me that a broader range on what is possible and what is good. And sometimes it doesn't have to be very, very sophisticated to be great. I mean, it just needs to be done with care and watching the details. And I think that's how my culinary formation came. It came from a very strong family table.
So what inspired you to open a restaurant in the first place then?
Man, I mean, I'll tell you that it started in college, where I just couldn't find myself a good barbacoa taco. And I didn't want much. I just wanted a tortilla, cooked well, not too oily, not too dry, and a nice fresh barbacoa with cilantro and onion, a spicy salsa, in a nice clean environment, and I just couldn't find it. And even in Dallas, I went to school in Dallas, it was just hard to source that. When I would find a place, something always made the experience horrible. And I was like, man, if somebody would be able to get all these things right, you know, like what we say in Salsa Limon's first slogan was Salsa Limon tacos con todo, that would have everything in it, that would have service, that would have a nice environment, that would have spicy salsas, that would have fresh ingredients, you know, that would have all these components that we have become addicted to in Mexico. You know, I mean, a Mexican without street tacos, I was getting desperate.
So when did you realize Salsa Limon had become a Fort Worth foodie phenomenon?
I mean, to me, it became very clear that our brand was bigger than what we were experiencing in the Grand Plaza. Like, the Grand Plaza was our first location. Why? Because the person that loaned us the money to start the concept had an interest in having us do it in his mall. Then the recession of 2009 hit us, which really shook us up. We could not subsist with the sales that we were having in a mall that was only Mexican and that was only getting Mexican consumers that at the time had very little disposable income. The Great Recession really dried up a lot of people's income, where they were already living paycheck to paycheck. Now they've been unemployed for 6 months. The last thing they're going to go do is go take their 5-person family to blow all their money on tacos and salsa limon. They would go home and buy the things and go eat at home. And so then that's when we started realizing, man, we need to do something here. The way I solved it was, let's change the market, meaning let's sell our product. We didn't change anything. We didn't change a single recipe. We didn't change the logo. We didn't change the menu. We didn't change anything. All we did is we got out of the mall and into that food truck that we parked it in front of Fuzzy Tacos on Berry Street, and that's when we realized that we had a brand that could translate across markets, from a Mexican blue-collar market to an affluent white, and I would argue a general market, because then we had athletes and musicians and tattoo artists and teachers, and everyone was going to the food truck.
Good food attracts everybody.
To get, it just gave us a real. It gave us a real confidence builder that our brand was in fact a universal brand, which we still believe to today. And you can see it even in all of our locations that we get people from India and from Asia and from hardcore white collar and Mexican. I mean, we do our food. Luckily, it transcends all nationalities and all. It's just good, spicy, comfort food.
I mean, clearly you have really constructed a very successful brand here. Can you provide us with some insight into your overarching business philosophy?
Sure. Well, my business philosophy, one of my core business philosophies is the way you build wealth or success is by having the customer come back. That is absolutely one of the cornerstones to our success, is the fact that if we have a chance, if the customer gives us the chance to win their patronage, that we have to deliver on that vote of confidence, and that that's what we talk about, is that we know that it's repeat business that keeps us going. So it's not just about doing everything right one time, it's about doing everything right all the time. And does it happen? No, it doesn't always happen. We're not always at our best, but we try to be. And that's where operations comes in. And operations is the biggest factor in success. I mean, there's a few factors, but operations is one of them. That the team has the right, that the team executing the concept understands what the concept is about, and understands that every role, every labor minute, every minute that they spend working in the concept, they should be bringing out their best, because it does add up.
So, was this your first foray into being an entrepreneur, or did you have prior entrepreneurial?
No, I mean, I've been trying to be an entrepreneur my whole life. Entrepreneurs are kind of like that. Like we just know that there is something that we should be doing. I mean, there's this impetus, this drive that we have. I did two businesses before Salsa Limon. The first one was an outdoor advertising business called Billboards in Motion, which 9/11 killed it. Because whenever we were just starting, and it was going well, what we did is we wrapped the back of trucks, of delivery trucks, with advertising. Mm-hmm. And so you would see our first client was HBO Latino in Chicago and LA. In New York, we just take like yellow trucks and wrap them with our advertising, and it was going until 9/11 came around, and then everybody's advertising budgets dried up. Nobody knew what was happening, and I had to go look for a job. And I guess that also during college I tried to make T-shirts and stuff like that, but it wasn't. It really started getting serious with Billboards in Motion. It was my first serious business, and then years later Salsa Limon, once I got the opportunity to do it.
So can you say that you learned a lot of lessons from those prior experiences that were able to translate over into Salsa Limon?
No, absolutely. I think that every single job and every single business experience I've had my whole life brings me the tools I need to succeed, or parts of it are what makes me successful today. But yeah, I mean, and it's crazy how once you get into an entrepreneurial position, one of the core things that I thought is like I can count on all my experience. It's all valid. I allowed myself to go back to every single, because that's what's required. That's why you want to have as many experiences as you can, so that you can have that creativity and that and those resources to find your way out of a bind. I mean, really, that's mainly what entrepreneurship is just being creative and figuring out how to get into and out of trouble.
And learning from those hardships, right?
Absolutely.
So speaking of hardships and challenges, what have been some of the biggest challenges in the restaurant industry in particular?
I mean, to me, the restaurant industry, one of the biggest challenges is going to be, I would say two parts. The first one is the operation, is getting great people that understand the concept, that are willing to give it their best over, and not just one time, but all the time. That's very difficult to do. And the other thing that's difficult to do is funding. You know, finding money, finding people that are willing to. I mean, unless you're born with a lot of money, which, you know, sadly was not my case. I had to go out there and hustle, but that's a big one, man. It's just I think there's three of them. Then it's finding the money to start, finding the people to be successful and stay successful, and then finally, just learning what it takes to be a successful business person, how to accumulate wealth, not just make the money, but keep the money. It's two different things.
Right.
So a lot of people can make a lot of money and not have any money, but it takes a special discipline to make a lot of money and then keep a lot of money, and then you grab that money and put it back. If you want to put it back into the game, be smart about that. You know what I'm saying?
Proper research and development in the restaurant industry, right?
Yeah, well, you know that, and I mean, it's. I mean, to me, it's human resources. It all ends up being human resources. Who's advising you? You know, I mean, it gets. If you start being successful, and you know, we've been very fortunate that we've been growing, and not just growing in size, but also in business infrastructure. Mm-hmm. It takes a lot of money. It takes a lot of money. It takes a lot of effort. So, so sourcing those things, and you know, we're lucky that we make good bets, we make good decisions, and so that's how we've been able to stay afloat.
So how has the local restaurant industry evolved since you first opened Salsa Limon?
I think that I was part of that generation that started shaking things up a little bit more in Fort Worth. I mean, I honestly, I think the Fort Worth food scene is incredible. I love. You know, I think the community is very much of we all work together, we support each other. I mean, I know a lot of restaurant owners, and they're all incredible people. We all want to. It's almost like being in a club with all the restaurant owners that we want to see. We understand that it doesn't have to be one successful and the rest failing. That for it to be a dynamic area or a dynamic restaurant scene, we should all be doing well. And so. That's been very positive to me to learn in Fort Worth, that there is that kind of camaraderie between all the business owners.
Yeah, I mean, it really makes a lot of sense, right? That a lot of the restaurant owners, you know, would congregate in a place like Magnolia, right? Because your success feeds into the success of Benito's or
Ellerby's, and you know, the neighborhood here is great, and you know, and honestly, Fort Worth is growing so much that I think there's plenty of business for everybody. That we should all strive to make a better scene so that more people want to come, and you know, I think that's on all of us to be a successful community, is to all have thriving businesses.
So by far the most important question though I have for you, what is the correct torta filling?
Well, you know, I mean, to me, the best torta filling, I mean, I'm a man, I like my classics. So I mean, if you were, I don't think a ham and cheese torta. I think that's a classic, you know, with his pickled jalapenos and onions and carrots. But to me, the key filling, the key ingredient is going to be that Mexican mayo, the McCormick mayo with the red top, which is mayo with lime. I could eat a torta, I'm not kidding, just the bread and that mayo, and I would be happy. But from there, you know, a nice refried bean is a great addition. In Mexico, we use a lot of crema. So you can get a refried bean torta with crema. Just that is great. Or, you know, a refried bean with cheese and do some molletes. But as you get more and more into the torta world, I mean, I am a ham and cheese guy. I'll order that sandwich. I'll order the sandwich any day. And including my sandwiches, like my club sandwich, which is kind of the similar. The torta is like a club a ham and cheese torta is like a club sandwich in a torta. Yeah. So, you know, I mean, that's I think that is up for whatever you feel like eating. I mean, if you want to get a breakfast torta, chorizo con huevo is going to be, una torta con chorizo con huevo is going to be an incredible It's going to be an incredible torta.
Sometimes simplest is the best, right?
I mean, and it can go from there, you know. I mean, you can do milanesa. There's the torta world is fantastic as well.
Well, thank you, Mr. Ramirez, for taking time to sit down and talk with me and share a little bit about your background and your insights into the restaurant industry. Hope you have a great day.
Thank you for having me. Be part of
thank
it. Wish you the best.